Welcome back. It is Sew Together Tuesday. I'm Teresa Coates. I am the Shannon Fabrics National Educator, and we are here for summer shorts. So today we are talking all about cutting cuddle fabric. So before we get too far.
Where are we?
Oh, sorry. We're at Patchwork Plus in Dayton, Virginia, and they are kind enough to let us use their space. So thank you for being here. We are happy to show some more of this place. It's been great. They've been really wonderful to us. So thank you, Patchwork Plus. Don't forget that you need to share the video. You'll be entered to win. At the end, we will put up a winner and you will get a beginner box. I think it's that we're still giving away. And you'll get one of those, which is a great prize and a great way to start using cuddle fabric. So if you're just learning, if you don't win, you should definitely go look for one of those because they're awesome. And you're going to be able to use a bunch of the skills that we'll be teaching you over the next few weeks to make those. All right, make the projects that are in there. All right, so last week we talked about what is Cuddle Minky and how is Cuddle and Minky different, the same, all of that good stuff. Today we're going to talk about the different kinds of Cuddle Minky and how you cut them. So this is definitely a place that people get a little bit, I can get a little bit more frustrated with because cutting Cuddle is when, cutting Minky in general, is when the mess happens. And really the biggest thing is to get rid of the mess before we start sewing it. So I'm going to show you some ways that we can deal with that to make it less messy. And then we'll also talk a little bit about how to get rid of the mess. Okay. So let's start. Is that it? Was that it? That's okay. All right. So we're going to start with the easiest stuff first, which is just the regular Cuddle. And people use this for all sorts of things. You can use it for stuffed animals. You can use it for the back of a quilt, for self-binding blankets, all sorts of things. That is the flat Cuddle. All right. So let me show you what I'm talking about. Okay, the nap is running top to bottom. I can pet it. If I do it this way, you can see that it ruffles it basically. Okay, this way there's no difference because that's where the stretch is. All right, this is the easy way to remember. So this is just a 3mm nap. So it's a tiny little fiber. Truthfully, I mean, comparatively to some of the other stuff we'll deal with, this is a really low pile one. So this one I just use scissors or a rotary cutter with, and it works just fine. One of the important things to remember is that when you're cutting it, and we're going to do this a few times, is that you want to mark it first. So on all of these, I'm going to show you a couple of different things, and I'm going to mark it so that we can cut both directions, because there's a difference with how it works depending on whether you're cutting against the grain or across the grain. Is that the right phrase? Okay. So I always like to mark it first. So I just use my ruler. This one is an olfa one, which I like because the points will come down to the very edge. And then this is just my Sew Together Tuesday Sharpie pen. So any sort of Sharpie pen will work. A water-soluble marker, friction pen will work all for this sort of thing. We're just going to mark the edge. So I'm just marking with my quarter here. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do a little cut here. Bink. And these are my big, these are my Kais. These are the 7280 SE, and the SE means serrated. All right, so these are serrated. I think, if I remember, on the top blade is serrated. So I'm just going to slide them under here. And they cut beautifully. Okay. I'm also going to show you, these are my Karen K. Buckley's. All right, these are also micro serrated. They're little ones. They're going to sit in here and do this. They also cut really nicely. The thing that I like about having these guys around is if I need to do big cuts, these are great for getting a nice big straight line. Okay. The other are the Femore, and these are their 6-inch razor edge comfort handle scissors. It's some big long name, but I think that was actually pretty close. So nice. I could cut off the end.
One of the great things about both those and the Karen K. Buckley's is that they have full-size handles, right?
They have big, like, yeah, you can hold them in your hand handles. So the difference is you can see that these have a smaller blade. Okay, so
as far as the
Kais,
length
the length of the cutting part. So if I measure up the cutting part, this one's got probably almost a 1/2 inch longer, which means this is really good for cutting things that are maybe like tight curves if I'm cutting out a stuffed animal or that sort of things, like round things, because I have a lot more control over this. If I want to cut a big straight line, I'm using this guy. Okay.
Got it.
I could do the blade difference.
That's two swords stuck together.
Right. So here's the little one and the big one. They're very different. So depending on what you want to do, it's how you choose which tool you're going to use. Okay. So all of those scissors work great because they're all micro serrated. The other tool that you can use is just your rotary cutter. So this is just a regular olfa rotary cutter. Make sure you got a fresh blade in there. It's super important. And all I do is mark along here and then I cut along this line. So this is where you get to decide what you want to do, because I like to draw the line and then I just cut it without my ruler. You can also put your ruler on here and use it as your edge. So if you have a hard time getting a straight line, you can absolutely do this. Just make sure that you're using one of the rulers that has a little bit of the grippy stuff on the back of it. So this olfa one does, Quilter Select do, or you can buy the Odif grippy spray and spray it on the back of any of your rulers and it will have a little less slip. So what that does is when I put this down and I get it where I want it to be and I push down, it doesn't slide on my fabric.
Got it.
Super important, okay? Because the worst thing is when you make these marks and then you put this on here and it slides. So this is why I mark it first. And then I hold it nice and still, okay? And then I can run this along here. All right, super duper easy. I can also take this off and draw another line. And I'll show you guys, you'll get pretty used to it if you practice. You'll get used to just following the line and you'll get better at just drawing a straight line with your rotary cutter. Okay.
Giving it a little extra attention with your other hand at the front, I noticed, helped straighten that out.
Yep.
Right?
And so this is interesting because this way is the stretchy way. So it kind of whooped on me. If you do it this way, this is the not stretchy way. This one is a lot easier to get a straight line because it doesn't move at all.
Okay.
Okay. So that's the same thing of like stretching width or cutting it widthwise or lengthwise. You can also see it leaves very little mess. So this is the biggest mess because I cut it twice. Okay. Little bit of mess. One of the easiest ways to deal with this is just to flick it. So that's kind of what I do a lot is flick it.
What you don't want to do is to stretch it, right? What
you don't want to do is stretch it. I'll show you in just a second. So really you're just going to flick it off. It gets that edge nice and clean. Kind of pull it off, do whatever.
Gently.
If you gently, and really the flicking part is the easiest to get all of that off on the Cuddle 3. So the other thing is, so this is my widthwise, you remember? So we're talking about, a lot of people do, they want to grab this and then pull all the stuff off. And if I do that, what it does is it curls that. So this all of a sudden starts to curl on itself.
Right, the edges roll up.
Right.
Got it.
So
and that's
then
because it's a knit.
Because it's a knit. So the more I pull this, the more it will roll. And then it really doesn't get, it's really hard to sew. And you can see here, it's not actually, it doesn't actually get the stuff off. I still have to come back in here and pull it off. Okay, so that method of pulling it to try to get it isn't going to work. So with the Cuddle 3, you can go ahead and use your scissors. You can use the long scissors. You can use short scissors. Just make sure they're micro serrated. That makes a big difference in getting it to grip the fabric really well. Or go ahead and use your rotary cutter, and that will work fine too. I use a 45 millimeter rotary cutter most of the time, but you can use a 45 or a 60 millimeter, and that's totally your choice. Okay. All right. So Cuddle 3, scissors, long or short, rotary cutter. Totally works. The digital cuddle is going to be the same way. I will share one little secret here, is with the digital cuddle, and sometimes with the regular cuddle, I will actually fold this in half, and it will kind of grip itself, and you can cut 2 layers at once. So with the Luxe Cuddles, I don't ever cut it 2 layers at a time. With the regular cuddle, with the print cuddle, and especially with the digital cuddle, it tends to grab itself. You can see it just doesn't slide. If I turn it over, it will slide more in between here. So the backings will slide on each other.
Okay.
But they don't slide if I turn it right sides together. Okay, so if I'm trying to cut a long cut across the 60 inches of the fabric, sometimes I will go ahead and I will cut it in half, and I'll show you how that works. All right, same idea. Is I'm going to draw the line, make sure that it's correct. Okay, then I'm going to go ahead and cut it. And you can see the digital cuddle leaves really very, very little mess because it's actually, it's not a shorter nap, but it's been pressed down from the heat process. So after you wash this, it'll fluff back up again. But at this point, it's actually really nice and flat and stays pretty compact. So it's very messless. So this is the least messy one that you can deal with, okay? So that's the digital cuddle. Does that make sense? Was that too fast? It was okay?
Nope, that was
All
great.
right. It's just really same thing, but you can cut it 2 layers. Digital or the Luxe Cuddle, I will say that you should always cut it 1 layer at a time. If you cut 2 layers, it's just, you have to cut it with a rotary cutter then, and it gets messy. So are you ready to do the rotary cutter and show the mess?
Okay.
Okay, so we're gonna do this again this way. Okay, and I'm gonna turn it so I can cut longer here. Okay, so I'm going to cut both directions on this. So typically people want to use their rotary cutter, and especially if you're a quilter, like you're really used to being able to cut with your rotary cutter and cut really fast. So I will say that this is my favorite, my personal favorite kind of rotary cutter, because I have got this little thing that I can pull it and then let it go and it goes back. If you have a different kind, I was using a different one earlier that's super great and sharp, but the thing that you want to make sure is that you're not having it locked out. So always put your blade back. Some of them, I kind of want to, I'm going to go grab it real fast. Okay, just so you can see the difference. Because what happens, so this is a new one from Creative Grids, which is really nice and sharp and heavy, and I really like it. But one of the things that you want to make sure is that when I'm doing this, it locks the blade out so that it's exposed. So you want to make sure that if you are doing that, that you're closing it every time after you use it.
You need to.
So you're going to use it and close it.
Yeah, that closing behavior after every time you use it.
Exactly. So I'll
Nobody wants to bleed for their craft.
No. So I'll show you with both ways. We'll do it with both. So here is with my olfa. Okay. What I do like about this, this one is lightweight. What I like about this one is that it has some oomph to it. You don't really have to push because it has the weight in it.
Got it.
Which is nice. And it is a right hand, left hand. So this way is right-handed and this way is left-handed.
Oh.
Pretty clever, right?
That's nice.
Yeah. So
ambidextrous tools are not the norm.
It is not the norm. I mean, you could do it with this, but you have to take the whole blade off and put it on this side. So this one, it's just here and you just flip it over, depending. So, but make sure that that blade is going back every time. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and come over here, and I'm actually gonna use my ruler just so I can keep this in place a little bit better. And I'm gonna go ahead and run that up there. Oh, that sounds so good. It's a new sharp blade. It's lovely. So when we cut with the rotary cutter, what happens is you can see is a very nice clean line here. But what that does is cuts off all the nap on all of the edges. Okay, so all of that gets everywhere. All right, so that's the problem, is that this creates a very big mess. And the more I move it, the more it will come off.
However, once all that mess is gone, it doesn't continue to shed. That's one of the great things about Cuddle, Minky. Even though it's a knit fabric, it won't shed after the initial cut. Right.
So once I get all of this off, then this edge won't shed anymore because it's just been cut. And so this, you can see it's solid on there. Only the loose parts, even that little bit, is just stuck on there. Okay. So yes, it won't continue to shed, which is great. But this mess, you can see in this little cut that I did, was like 16 inches of cutting. It makes a huge mess. This isn't ginormous, but if you're cutting a 60-inch wide piece of fabric, this can get kind of crazy. So I'm going to vacuum this up, and I'm going to show you my trick. Okay. Okay. We'll talk about the vacuum, because everybody asked about the vacuum. So the
Black & Decker.
There we go.
Dust Buster. And one of the things that you love about that is?
That the air comes out the back side instead of the sides. So make sure that it's blowing out the back, because then you'll notice as I'm doing this, the air is all blowing behind and it's not blowing the cuddle dust all over. So that tends to happen if the air goes out the side. When you're vacuuming around, it just blows the cuddle dust, and then it's even more frustrating. So make sure that it blows out the backside. This is my favorite. This is, I think, my 4th or 5th of this variation, and I really love this. Yeah, we had one. I think we had 3 at home in different areas of the house.
Yes.
So we could use it at all times. Worth having multiples for sure. Okay, so here is my piece again. I'm going to turn it this way because this is the piece that I cut with the rotary before, okay, was here. So I want to do this again, and I'm going to show you how I do it with the blade. Okay, and this applies to not just this hide, which is what I've got here, but on any of the Luxe Cuddles, except for one that we'll show you in just a second. Okay, so I've drawn my line. So this would be if I were doing, I needed a 10-inch, strip, or I needed to trace around a stuffed animal pattern, whatever it is, I'm going to mark my lines first, and then I'm going to go ahead and cut it. So this tool that I'm going to use is the olfa SAC-1. Okay, and I know that they have these here at the shop too. They're sometimes hard to find. So this is a great one. And it has 7 blades in it. So mine has been used and I'm down to 3. So it has 7 blades originally when you get it. And those snap off with this funky little tool right here at the end of it. Comes in here, snaps this off. Okay, so you just get to replace that blade over and over again. And you can actually buy replacement blades for this whole section. All right, I love this tool and I use it all the time. So it has this sharp little point over here. It comes down, it's a 60-degree angle, and it is kind of like a box cutter and an X-Acto knife had a baby. This is what it would be, okay?
Got it.
So it's great. I absolutely love this tool, and this is why. It's because I will go ahead and I will hold this. I'm just gonna drag this.
Come around the side a little bit better.
Okay, so I'm just gonna drag this right along the line. I'm just going to hold some tension on that fabric so that it doesn't drag with me. Okay, so that's important. And I'm just going to drag this along here. And we're going to go ahead and get down to the end so we can open that whole thing up and let you see. So what it does is it cuts along the edge there, but it doesn't cut off all that nap. So before, when we did this with the rotary cutter, all of this edging stuff came off. Okay, so let's try it the other direction because this was the messier way. The width-wise is generally messier because the nap is going that way. So we'll cut this.
In a very low angle to the fabric, and you're dragging it along. You're not pointing the tip straight down.
Right, so don't do it like this. It doesn't work. You can see it just kind of grabs and wants to stretch the fabric. And what we're trying to do is slice the back of it. So the biggest thing for me is keeping it nice and low and then just dragging it along there. Kind of like if you were doing, what is that called? Like embossing, where you use that little stylus. If you've ever done any or sort of crafting like that, it has a little ball stylus and you push on it.
Oh,
that's
gotcha.
what that reminds me of. It's very like low and easy going on it. Okay, so don't press super hard because that's not the point. Okay.
Got it. Yeah, in fact, you don't want to press all the way to the ground because the whole idea is to keep
is right that you're just cutting the back. So you can see all of this. So this is where we cut it. So this is a great way of doing it because right here you can see this is where we cut it with the rotary cutter. This is where I cut it with that knife. Okay, there we go. Look at that. 2 great tools. All right, but this one leaves all of this edging on here, which is actually really nice because if we were to use this for a self-binding blanket, it comes over and gives a really nice soft finish to it, which I really like. Okay, so this, I'm gonna pick this up, move it. You can see we got a little bit. If I shake it. Okay. So if you don't want to get any mess from that, because I just shake it to get it there, you can actually just take this to the dryer. Don't shake it at all. Take it to the dryer, throw it in, any of your cuts, put it in there with a wet washcloth, let it tumble around for a couple minutes, and you will be fine. So let me show you a couple other ones and how we want to do this. So this is our ridge. All right, we talked about this last time. It's got the little cut edges, so it's funky. This one you're going to cut just the same, and it's going to be a little bit... it's going to be a little funky because of those. So let me show you. I'm just going to do one cut on these, just so you can see the difference. Okay, and how the edges finish it off. So the thing with cutting it with the blade is it will take you a little bit longer, but not a lot longer. And once you get some practice with it, it's actually really pretty darn easy. Okay, so there we go. So there's that mess. All right, so not too bad at all. This one is our hawk, named after you. So we have the hawk fabric. This one, we have a few others, the chenille, the weave. Brooklyn,
Ziggy.
The Oxford. There are a few of them that when you look at them, they have obvious lines on them. So if I cut this from the back and I just randomly draw some lines on the back and hope that I get it right, I'm not going to. It's just the way it is. There's no evidence here where the lines are on the front. Okay, so on this is going to be one that I'm actually going to take my scissors to, and I'm going to cut along the line. So on here, I'm just going to do this little edge here, and I'm going to want to cut in between where I can see the line is. Okay, so once I get this cut, then I have a nice fresh edge, and I'm going to use that to line up and draw my second line. So if I were drawing a square, I could come a square off of this.
That keeps the square that you're cutting square to the grain of the fabric.
Exactly, exactly. So if I do a little line here, and I'm going to use my ruler, line it up with the line I just cut, and I'll draw this. And then I'm going to go ahead, I'll use my blade again, cut along this way, and then I've got a nice square corner, perfectly square here. See if we can get that flip over, and a nice soft edge here that's actually square to this line.
Got it.
All right, so if there is a line on it, an obvious line on it, the same goes for the buffalo check, and there's a couple others that we have some like stripy bits on the front. Cut it from the front to get the initial line, and then you can cut it from the back. If you need to cut it all from the front, you absolutely can. All right, and one more. This one is our seal. I'm going to go ahead and show you how that cuts. So we're going to do it both. I'm going to do it this way so we can show you. We'll cut a line here and a line here. So I want to show you the difference if you cut it with the blade and with the rotary cutter. So I'm going to cut this one here. Okay, and then I'll cut this one. And again, just hold it, drag it. Okay, and this technique I use, it works for anything that's a straight line. If you're using something that's like for like stuffed animals or something like that, you might want to use scissors because it might be a little bit easier. The blade so we end up having this issue where so I'm going to cut it again with the little scissors, but it will cut off some of this. You can see how it does cut through some of the back, and it will leave some of the front. When we cut it with the rotary, look at all of that comes off.
Got it.
So this one, it cuts all of that stuff, and it can be really messy. But you'll see that the blade, because of the way that the blade cuts, and because it's not really the way that the blade cuts, but because the blade cuts down like this, it actually tends to cut more of the fiber. So on this side, it cut these little guys. On this side, it's perfectly
Oh, that's
flat.
interesting. Okay.
Okay, so it's just the seal tends to be a little bit more, finicky about how it's cut. So I'm just going to cut from the backing real quick. So this is the way I've done it before when I did like a self-binding blanket out of it. And I just kind of run the edge of the scissors right under the backing.
Snip, 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 snip.
And then if I feel it start to get caught, I stop. And this works a little bit better to keep more of the fibers intact.
Got it.
Okay, so this wouldn't be important in the overall construction of it. So if you were doing like a throw, you were doing two sides that were of the seal or the sable, one of these long, heavy ones, it wouldn't matter that you were getting more nap off. It would matter if you were trying to do a self-binding blanket or something where you were bringing the edge over and it was going to stay raw. So that's when you would need to pay attention to that. So there you go. That's how we cut it. Get less of a mess. Make sure that you're cutting it with a vacuum cleaner close by, and then make sure that you throw it into the dryer with a wet washcloth. Let it tumble around for a couple minutes, no heat, okay? The biggest reason we want to get rid of this mess before we start sewing with it, so one, it makes it easier when we're actually cutting out the entire project. It will make a big difference in the actual sewing of it and how much easier it is if you're not losing nap everywhere. So get rid of it, cut it, throw it in the dryer.
Better for you, better for your machine.
Exactly. Everyone will be happier. Okay. All right. So I think that's it. we will announce a winner in the comments. Okay. We'll be back next week. Is that right? Is that all I have to tell them?
I think we're good.
Every time I'm like, what am I doing? Okay, I think that's it. We'll be back next week. More summer shorts. Thanks for joining us. Thanks to Patchwork Plus for having us, and happy sewing.